Okay, hi. This is Sarah Taylor. I'm going to show you how I varnish a large painting. So this is this painting. It's 4 foot by 5 foot. It's called Veriskite. And first what I did is I put rubber gloves on, and then I stole some of my kids' mismatched socks, which are actually a really nice size. I kind of like that it doesn't cover the thumb. So, and I just took, what this is it's half Liquitex satin varnish, half water. And this should probably be just about enough. I might have to mix up a little bit more. And the Liquitex satin varnish, I'll show you what that looks like with my little sock glove hands here. Oh, this is the gloss, sorry. So this comes in gloss, high gloss, satin. I really like the satin finish, and it just kind of depends on the painting sometimes when you decide what sheen you want. There's a few different ways to do it. Sometimes you can actually do one layer with gloss, which I actually might do now that I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to mix some of this the same way I mix this. I'll do the first layer in gloss, which really picks up the color and makes the color really pop. And then I'll go over it with a layer of the satin varnish to kind of just bring that sheen down just a little bit. So I'm going to put the camera up. I'll give you a good angle here, and you can watch how I varnish this large painting. So I had mixed the water and the varnish, and I'm taking my gloved sock hands and dipping them in the varnish and just doing circular motions over the canvas, just putting a really nice thin layer. It's really hard with a big canvas like this to brush on varnish, because to get over and get all the coverage with a brush is pretty difficult. So I take the approach with a big canvas of like 3, maybe even 4 coats of very thin varnish that's applied like this in a circular motion with the socks. And it really, really works beautifully. The more layers you do, the higher sheen, the higher gloss you're going to get. And I do the sides the same way. So I'm just kind of like rubbing the sides with the varnish. And it works really, really well. After I show you this, so this is the first coat. I'm not going to show you over and over again how to do this. I'm just going to show you the first coat here. And then you let it dry completely. You don't want it to be tacky at all. Usually just an hour and a half, depending on how warm and the climate you're in. You just want it to be dry before you go in with your second layer of varnish. So after this, I'm going to talk to you about different types of varnish, different types of resin, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that I've learned about finishing your painting. So I hope this is helpful, and yeah, I'll see you here in just a minute with some more information. Okay, so while we're talking about varnish, I thought I would show you just some of what I like to use and talk about some of the pitfalls of finishing your paintings. So we just used these guys. There's the gloss. If you're going to use resin, I've really come to like this brand a lot. Faux Rizzle Art Resin. It's their 720 epoxy.
and there's a part A, part B. Previous to using that resin, I used, which I would definitely use again, Stone Coat. And not to be confused with this is the art coat. So they have more of a craft resin. I can't remember what it's called, but you want to get the art coat. This is the professional art epoxy resin. They have a part A, part B as well. Oh, this is important. And I actually didn't get it on film, but I had put a coat of this down on Veriskite before, about a week ago. And it's an isolation coat by Golden. The really beautiful thing about this product is that it's a barrier. So it's a clear glossy barrier applied on top of acrylics before varnish. And if the painting ever gets damaged, or if the varnish, I don't know, 10 years down the line, like it just needs refinished, this will protect your acrylic from removal of the varnish. So you could actually remove the varnish and put a new coat of varnish on it with this isolation coat applied. It's really great. If you're doing high-end commission, high-end finish work, this is a great step to take. And I've got some stuff in this drawer too. If you're sometimes in the summer on smaller pieces, I'll bring a bunch of them out and just spray them with this low odor Krylon low odor clear finish. It's great. It's permanent protective. There's a lot of good spray varnishes on the market. Amsterdam, Cobra, Golden, Krylon. I mean, they're all pretty good. I've not had any problems with any of them. For those of you using Pigment by ColourArte, the Primary Elements, this is a vital step. So this painting that I just showed you had a little bit of primary element in it, but not much. If there's a lot of that pigment in your painting, you want to spray it with the Coeur varnish first, because it seals it in so it won't bleed into your varnish, because it will if you don't use this first. I believe Coeur is typically known for varnishing acrylic or alcohol ink over like a paper. So it's a great product. Very, very unique. Here's another one I like, the Cobra. And this is odorless. But don't be cavalier. Just because it says odorless doesn't mean you should not wear a protective. Whenever I'm using any spray varnish, I use a full respirator. And it's, you've got to protect your lungs. Like, it's just not worth it. So this is in my Amazon shop. They are not very expensive. I think the mask itself was like $20, $25. The cartridges are maybe $13. And it protects your lungs. And whenever I'm mixing pigments, KN95 works for mixing pigment from what I understand. But if you're using a spray, the particles they'll go through a KN95 mask. Like, you need a good respirator for spray varnish. Ideally, I wear this and I go outside because I don't want it in the house. So what I was saying, the Cobra odorless, just because it says it's odorless does not mean that it's not toxic in the air. It doesn't stink as much as some of the other varnishes, which I do appreciate, but you still need to use the same precaution. Let's see, what else do I have in here? There was a time where I used this product. I would not recommend it. It yellows over time. It works great, but it does yellow. And that's another pitfall with resin. And I just had this wonderful artist friend message me, and she was heartbroken because a painting she did 2 years ago, a huge, like 4x5 foot painting, she'd used resin on it, and it was primarily white. There was a lot of white negative space. I'm just going to turn you around so I can see you. I have 0 here. So she had varnished it, and the varnish yellowed really bad. And the client basically said, you need to replace this or I need a refund. So she was working on replacing it, and some time had gone by, and the client just said, you know what? I just want a refund for this painting. And it's really a bummer because she loved it. She loved the painting, but the varnish, any varnish, art resin, KS, any of it will yellow in UV over time. There's nothing you can do about it. So if you have resin over any white in your painting, just realize that there's potential, and especially if it's the more sunlight, the worse, the more UV it's going to yellow. So I never resin a painting unless it's very dark. Just a good heads up. Yeah, so I hope this is some good information. I'll be doing my retreat next week, and then back to the studio to do some paintings. I've got some more commission work, which I'm very excited about, and some crazy experiments in my head. So stay tuned. All right. Much love. Thanks for being with me in my studio today.